Yeah, so that I think that was a great tee up and a kind of a question that kind of brews in my head is, okay, so I have a Bitcoin miner. They acquire land some way, they acquire materials some way, they acquire labor some way, and all of this eventually converts to, as we've described it, their ASICs producing hashes so that they can settle blocks and be rewarded in Bitcoin. And what you've effectively said is that my contributing hash power to the network, my spending money on machines that will produce hashes, this hash rate increase drives additional cost because of the algorithm, drives a upward pressure or upward price cost. It increases my cost of, so my participating increases the cost of production. So kind of linking this in about the alluding to a hash rate war. Why would I be fighting for or racing for additional hash or increased hash, since adding more hash rate drives up my cost, which means I have to, right? It's almost, as you say, it's very balanced, but why am I competing to make my life as a miner more expensive? Meaning I have to do more to do these things. So connect those things. It seems almost counterintuitive.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of is. And what a miner needs to have is the long-term understanding that cost does not create value, right? So if someone spends $100 to dig a hole in their backyard, the hole's not worth $100. You just wasted your time and energy. There's no value being delivered. It's actually value that creates cost. And this is kind of like the price discovery mechanism in free market economics. The more and more perceived value that Bitcoin can deliver, the higher and higher that cost is going to be pushed, because what we're trying to do through this commodity cycle, through this price discovery cycle, is discover what that value is. That's the whole point of price discovery. And the value proposition of Bitcoin in the long run, which is why these miners and countries are now getting into the game, is global GDP divided by 21 million. And that's what has become the meme, infinity divided by 21 million, because global GDP is really based on human creativity and intuition. And as humans continue to create and become more productive, then our GDP can increase limitlessly. So basically, you have human ingenuity and creativity divided by 21 million coins. So that's the long-term value proposition of Bitcoin. And these companies are able to increase their hash rate to acquire more Bitcoin. And Bitcoin value proposition now is not well understood. And that's kind of what creates the big opportunity that we have in Bitcoin right now. Just like the early internet, people did not understand, even with pets.com and the big internet bubble that we saw, everybody knows that bubble crashed. But after the dust settled from that, we got the Amazons and the Googles and everything that made life what it is today. We are in a new age of living. Look at all of us right now having this conversation over the airwaves all over the world. That wouldn't have been possible without the internet. So if people had understood that value proposition at that time, which some people did, and they made billions of dollars by understanding that, that's what I equate to Bitcoin right now. People stay too focused on the short-term price of Bitcoin and the commodity cycle we're going through. But as a miner, I continue to invest in hash rate and earn more Bitcoin because I know the long-term value proposition of Bitcoin is global GDP divided by 21 million. So if I am able to mine Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin through the block reward, sell a portion of that Bitcoin to cover my costs, and then keep the profit in my treasury, over a long period of time, my company is going to become worth quite a bit of money, because Bitcoin has a compounding annual growth rate right now. I think the 10-year CAGR is 60%. So you're talking about 60% growth over a 10-year period in your treasury. That's why they're buying more hash rate, even though it's counterintuitive, because, well, the more hash rate I buy, the less Bitcoin I'm going to get. Yeah, but there's only 21 million Bitcoin, and there will come a day where nobody's going to be able to get any, unless you're mining and you're collecting the transaction fees.
Yeah.
So this idea of absolute digital scarcity, I think that's really what throws a wrench in the wheel for traditional analysts, because there is no other commodity that can't expand its supply.
Well, and to your point, not only is the hurdle to get over this idea of having true digital scarcity. The idea of scarcity itself, I think, is very hardly conceptualized correctly. And for our listeners and viewers who are listening to this program, and CJ, correct me if I'm wrong here, but to summarize it, to put it in a nice little box and bow, why this has so much value is not only has Bitcoin improved upon the properties of money, but it's the only commodity that has this difficulty adjustment. And in some way, it is the purest form of a monetized energy. And so you talk about it being an energy commodity, and this energy commodity essentially has no bleed. It has not, it's not escaping. Energy is not escaping necessarily, but it's the truest form, the best wrapper or tool or vehicle to represent energy in its purest form. And the fact that it's scarce and we only have so many of those wrappers or vehicles to put that energy in. Am I going in the right direction here? Is this something that
Yes,
our baby,
yeah.
well, now anybody, baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, whatever, like they're looking for an easy way to conceptualize this vehicle called Bitcoin.
Yeah. So let's look at it through the lens of natural versus engineered. And when we talk about like a candle, right? In the old days, they used to start a fire and light a candle. And a candle was like, oh, this is great technology. I can have that light for 4 or 5 hours, right? And then what happened? We engineered an unnatural solution to a strong value proposition, which is light while it's dark. And you go from the candle to the light bulb. Well, okay, now let's talk about horses. Horses were a fantastic way to get around. I mean, sometimes in some cases, and even in U.S. history, especially as we were after the Civil War, when we were connecting the East to the West, and that expansion was taking place, horses were sometimes worth more than people. And that's kind of sad to say, but it's just the fact of the how the reality played out. And that horse, even today in a car, what do we call it? Horsepower. Right? We have a natural way to travel with the horse, a natural way to move objects with the horse. But now we have an unnatural engineered component, a technological innovation. And that's what we're moving into the age of technology, from candle to light bulb, from horse to car, from newspaper to computer articles, from just a set of code that has a string of letters in it that presents text to you versus actually having a physical piece of paper that you can hold in your hand. Finally, paper money to absolute digital scarcity, finite money. It's all about moving from the natural, non-technological component to the unnatural technological advancement. And this is just one of the natural parts of money evolving. And that's why I say Bitcoin is actually the first form of money, because all of those other things worked great. Horses were fantastic. They helped build this country. But if they had trucks, they could have done it a lot faster, right? Same thing with money. Our money happens to be one of the biggest hurdles in having a strong economy, because we go through these boom and bust cycles, and these boom and bust cycles in large part are due to the human variable, the human element. And Bitcoin removes that human element. It removes politics. It removes emotion, and it replaces it with mathematics. And then the judgments are based on the mathematical reality versus the narrative. And that is the next technological innovation for money, to move from that paper form where humans can alter the facts and data set around that money to a digital form through a proof of work consensus that protects the mechanisms that guard and rule over that form of money.